latest episode of Better Humans at Work. I'm thrilled to be joined today with Janiece Smith. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Victoria. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Janice is a industrial organizational psychologist, educator, and CEO and lead consultant of the Answer Group consulting firm that focuses on strategy and culture change to help purpose-driven people and organizations move from idea to execution. As a strategist and coach, Janice works with individuals from all walks of life, guiding them through moments of transition, helping them reconnect to their voice, and supporting their professional growth with strategy, soul, and care. She has a special passion for working with those who are often overlooked, underserved, or underestimated, and she views each coaching relationship as a sacred opportunity to affirm the brilliance that has always been there. Born and raised in South Florida, Janice is a builder, a mirror, and a believer, someone who shows up in every room with a heart to serve, a mind to strategize, and a calling to help others remember who they are. So I'm so thrilled to have you here today. Janice and I share our background in industrial organizational psychology, and we also both belong to Blacks in IO, although you are very involved with BIOP. What is your role? I guess, what is Blacks in IO for those who don't know, and what is your role in the organization?
So, Blacks in IO is a nonprofit, but more than that, it is a professional association. So, we are much like SIOP, which is Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology. It is BIOP for Blacks in IO Psychology and all of its allies. So, we are a place where IO psychologists can come together, rub elbows with one another, be iron sharpening iron. There are lots of resources, mentorship, scholarships, the whole nine, where we come together and we bounce our ideas off of one another. We grow, we network, and we grow as professionals in this very sacred and safe space where we get to kind of spread our wings, is what I want to say. So that's BIOP. And I'm the board secretary. I serve on the board as the secretary.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love BIOP. It is my favorite organization that I've ever volunteered for. I was in the mentorship program. This last year just wrapped up, and I love my mentee. She's so wonderful, and it's been great getting to know her and helping her along in her career journey. But something else I've always loved about BIOP from when I first discovered it was the ally membership, because I feel like a lot of times when we have these identity based groups, it's not entirely clear, how allies could or should be involved. And the fact there was a special ally membership, I was like, oh, there is a place for me here. I can get involved. And, it's never about me. It's always centering, Black IOs and the members. But anyway, I can always get involved as an ally member. I always try to. So I love BIOP. So I love that the great work that you're doing over there.
Well, thank you. And you do show up as an ally extremely well. You understand the assignment and you knock it out of the park. So we appreciate that.
That means the world. I always say you never call yourself an ally. You always know you're doing it right when someone else calls you such. So thank you. I appreciate
Yes, yes.
that. So how did you end up in IO psychology as a field?
Actually, I was trying to finish my bachelor's in business administration, wanted to figure out what was next. And the logical path, of course, is to get an MBA. And I was like, no, I don't like numbers that much. And it seemed boring to me. So I was in a lot of prayer and was just kind of thinking and seeking and asking, what should I do next? I ended up in an intro to IO psychology class. And I was much older trying to finish my degree. And in probably the first 5 or 10 minutes of this class, every frustration I had ever had working in corporate America was answered in like the first 5 or 10 minutes. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, that's why I felt like that. Oh, that's what that was. Oh. It was like all these light bulbs started going off. And I immediately knew that I wanted to be an IO psychologist. And 12 years later, once I was finished my degree, um, I pursued becoming an IO psychologist. And that's when I went and got and pursued my master's.
I love
So
it. I
that's
love it. Yeah, I feel like it's a similar story for us IOs. Either we wanted to be counselors or therapists and decided that wasn't the right route, or coming from the business side of things, like in your story, and realizing like there's a people centric version to this. It doesn't have to always be about the bottom line and the financials. So
Yeah,
yeah, I love it.
definitely. I remember when I was first introduced to IO, my definition of IO is putting the heart back into business. So that's
Mm.
how I define IO.
I love
Yeah.
that. Well, that's a really great segue into today's topic, which is unconditional love as a leadership strategy. I've thought about the concept of love in my work with workplace inclusion, and and I define inclusion as the behaviors that result in others feeling valued, respected, seen, and heard. And so I wasn't too shocked whenever you suggested this title, but the term love is not typically used in the business world. So tell me how you came to this area of work. What's the story behind it, and what can we learn from it?
So when I think about love, right, one, it's my commitment to the flourishing of others, right? And my whole existence is rooted in love. So I don't know how to operate from any other source. So, with that being said, everything that I lead from or that I springboard out of comes from love. And it's an unconditional type of love. But I'm not talking about like this soft, romanticized type of love, right? I'm talking about um or I'm not talking about the kind of love that kind of avoids hard conversations, right? Or that build or that is scary or shrinks back from things, right? I'm talking about the type that builds structure, that offers grace, that demands accountability, and that sees people as whole human beings. So everything I design, whether it's in corporate or nonprofits or academic spaces, is built on that foundation. So when I think about love, and unconditional love as a leadership strategy, I think about it that way. It's reframing it. Like I said, not in that romantic, kind of sense, but it's radical accountability and investing in people as a legitimate, necessary.
You broke up there a little bit with that conclusion. Would you mind saying that again?
Oh, sure. I said it's radical, right? Accountability and investment in people as legitimate and necessary.
Got it. So, what does unconditional love look like at work?
It looks like respecting humanity over productivity, right? Valuing connection as a catalyst for performance. Because when people are connected, when they are tethered to something, it causes them to do more. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we forget that, right? It's like, if I pay you this, you'll do it. That will last for a little while. But if I'm connected to something, if my heart is tethered to it, I'm going to do a whole lot more. So that connection is extremely important. And then creating space for voice, for belonging, and for psychological safety. Because when I feel safe, right, I'm going to come out of my shell, right? There are people that are a little bit introverted, a little bit shy, and they don't necessarily want to come out. But when they are safe, when they feel safe, you see a different side of them. And so, creating those spaces for them, it causes them to be a little, it causes them to be a lot more receptive, open, creative, and productive.
So, you said that, when it comes to operationalize unconditional love, it's focusing more on the people and less on the productivity. Is there a way that we can do both?
So, in all actuality, it is doing both.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a chain reaction, so to speak. So they're happening simultaneously, because I'm not telling you to negate one for the other, but what I am telling you to do, because most organizations don't, they don't think about this side at all. Or if they do think about it, it's on a very surface level, or it's a performative way of thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it. So it never actually connects. It's very surface. and it's not authentic. And whether we believe it or understand it or not, organizations, people can feel whether or not it's performative and whether or not it's authentic.
Yeah.
So it's actually happening at the same time. So you would have training, you would have the things that matter as far as what it takes to produce what you need. But at the same time, you're working on what it also takes to have this authentic feeling of love and accountability.
So speaking of accountability, how can accountability be a love language?
so, uh, I think accountability is actually an act of love because when you hold someone accountable, you don't coddle them, you equip them,
Mm,
right? So, love and leadership, in my opinion, it says that you care enough to see who a person really is, you hold them to their purpose, and you walk with them through not only their wins, right? But even the places where they're kind of shaky, right? Right? You think about a toddler and they're learning how to walk, right? They are, sometimes they stand up and they're walking really good, but then sometimes they wobble a little and they fall. And we celebrate that just as, and especially the getting up. That's the best part. Watching them
mm,
fall back up again. In fact, I was on the phone with my sister earlier today, and she said that she heard someone talk about resilience and how great resilience, or the best part of resilience, is the getting back up, the starting again, right? So when when we look at babies, we're so excited about them getting back up, about them not falling and staying down. We're more excited about them getting back up. So why do we lose that when people are adults, right? So
mm.
if we go back to accountability, it's the getting back up, right? I can walk with you through your wins, but I can also walk with you when you wobble a little and get excited about you getting back up and trying it all over again.
I love that. I love that. And it's a good comparison. I think about my work with inclusion and allyship, and after my trainings, I'll often get feedback like, "Hey, this was stuff that we learned when we were in kindergarten, and we needed a reminder. So thank you. You know how to just treat others with basic respect and dignity and care, and why that's important." Because I feel like that, especially in corporate life, it just gets lost in everything else that's going on. Yeah. So when it comes to leading beyond the title, right? So and I too define leadership beyond just a formal designation in your role, right? But how can those who are leaders, whether informal or formal leaders, empower people to show up whole in the workplace?
So I think about it in terms of, first, you have to be able to lead yourself, because
Mm,
if you can't lead you, you can't lead anybody else, right? A lot of times when I'm teaching, I tell my students, I first ask them the question like the first day of class. If a millionaire or a billionaire were to walk in here today and say, I have $1 million for you, if you can identify yourself as a leader, how many of you would raise your hand? And I would tell you that about 80% of my students would not raise their hand. And I then ask the question.
mm,
And they say, because I've never held a leadership title. And I say, titles don't make you a leader. Because I know a lot of people with titles that can lead me to a great leader, but I don't trust them, right? So I talk to them about who's behind you. Who is it that is actually listening to you? Who's paying attention? Do you pay attention to yourself, right? Do you listen to your own voice? Do you trust it, right? So when I think about leading beyond, or leading beyond the title, I think about it in terms of how do you show up in believers spaces, where you don't have a title, and do people actually, they feel empowered by your presence? Is there something about you that causes shift in the room? Is there something about you that makes people want to be aligned to whatever the purpose or the mission is in that space? without you having to say no, right? Because it's not about being the loudest person in the room. It's not about volume. It's not about black. It's not about being free. Um, it's about self leadership as a foundation. So if you can lead yourself, then other people. It's like the old saying, "You build it, they come," right? So if you build you, they'll come. They'll follow you.
I love that. And then when it comes to unconditional love as a leadership strategy, what role does self love and boundaries play in the workplace?
It plays a huge role because you can't pour out of an empty vessel. So if you are expected to produce, if you're expected to give of yourself, because you can't bring a part of yourself to work. It would be one thing if we could take our arm off and say, "Here, go to work." But you can't. You take all of you. And so if you take all of you, that means you have to take care of all of you in order to be a productive citizen at work. That means you have to include whatever time you need for you to be filled back up when you're depleted. And so that includes reflection, that includes finding things that I call it filling up your joy meter, not your happiness meter, because happiness is different, in my opinion, than joy. So, happiness, I say, is based on happenings, right? But joy is this internal, intrinsic thing that isn't really moved or changed based on what's happening outside. It's internal and it kind of stays static. It doesn't move, it doesn't change. So, what is it that builds up your joy? Is it the laughter of your new baby sister? Is it the time you spend with your family? Is it you crocheting? Is it you stuffing candy into bags and giving it away to children in the neighborhood? Whatever that thing that fills you up with joy, find time to do it because you have to build up your joy meter, right? It's about whatever your creativity is, getting still, being okay with your thoughts, unpacking them, cognitive offloading, practicing what you preach or what you hear in mentorship, and when you are with people that pour into you concerning wisdom. So it's doing all of those things that actually build you up so that when you go back out into the world, you have something to give.
I love that. And then what about the role boundaries play in this in unconditional
Yeah.
love as a leadership strategy?
Yes. So as a leadership strategy, understanding boundaries, yours and others, right? So as a leader, when you lead with love, sometimes you have to be careful because people will do the old adage, mistake kindness for weakness, right? Because it's not something that most people see in the workplace, right? Is this idea of unconditional love, so it can be misconstrued, and you have to be careful. So you do have to set boundaries um, to protect you as a leader, and then also to protect the person that you're leading. And then you also should practice um, respecting the boundaries of those that you lead, right? And
Mhm.
understanding where they need you to be, what empowers them, what will cause them to have setbacks, and so on and so forth. So again, this goes back to what I said in the beginning, which is connection. So it's really important to make connections because as you connect, you get to learn and understand the people that you're working with and leading, and you can make better decisions on what those boundaries look like. You don't have to guess in the dark. It kind of turns the light on, so that way you have a better viewpoint or vantage point on how to connect and keep those boundaries intact. But boundaries are extremely important because if you don't, you'll overrun them, and then that defeats the purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been very enlightening. I think we need to have more talk about unconditional love in the workplace and how, we can use that to not just have better human outcomes, but better business outcomes too. When we take care of our people, just as you said, it really trickles down to productivity, profitability, and everyone wins. So, Janiece, thank you so much for joining us today. If people wanted to learn more about you or your your practice or your work, how would you recommend them reaching out?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So it's just Janiece Smith at LinkedIn. You can also visit my website at www.unpacks. Either one of those is probably the easiest and fastest way to reach me. Or they can reach out to you and you can send them to me. You know how to reach me as well. So those are the easiest ways to reach me. And
Wonderful.
oh, my email address is my first name at tagconsulting.llc.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom with our audience today. And thank you for